Well, welcome back. This is Mr. DeSico. If you're watching this, you've probably been assigned to check out some information on the Judicial Branch. All right. It's a pretty short one today, so we'll roll right through so you could be on and doing whatever it is you do. All right. The final branch we kind of learned about in class was the Judicial Branch. And the head of that Judicial Branch is the Supreme Court. Today, there are 9 Supreme Court justices, which decide, interpret laws, and look at any constitutional issues that are apparent in the country. Okay. The office, once again, is called the Supreme Court. There are 9 justices. When these judges are nominated by the president and the Senate approves them, they have the job forever. Yes, they can resign, they can retire, but for the most part, if you're a Supreme Court judge, you get the job for life. All right. And the process there is pretty simple. You are appointed by the president, so picked by the president of the United States, but the Senate has to approve the appointment. And when we looked at the presidency, there were certain qualifications, like you had to be 35 years old, you had to live in the United States for 14 years, you had to be a natural born citizen. But if we look at the Constitution, there are no requirements listed in the document. The only thing that has to happen is you have to be picked by the president or appointed by the president and then approved by the Senate. This is also an example of checks and balances. All right. The judicial branch. So if we were actually to go and read the Constitution, Article 3 of that Constitution creates the Supreme Court. The document, our Constitution, also says that Congress has the power to create the lower courts, the smaller courts. The judicial branch, what the technical job is they interpret the law. All right. All 50 states have also created their own courts. So each state has the state of New York courts, the state of Colorado courts, but at the top level, we have a federal court system, an appellate division of that federal court system, and then at the top would be the Supreme Court. All right. A couple legal terms that you're going to run into that you might want to be aware of. First one is jurisdiction. All right. So the jurisdiction means is that who has the authority to view a certain case. All right. If some small issue were to happen in your little community, you got a speeding ticket. Well, you're going to have to go to a court. You're certainly not going to go to the Supreme Court. Who has jurisdiction over that, how we would use that term is the local court, the city court would hear that matter. And the Constitution determines who has authority over certain issues. All right. So jurisdiction simply means which level of court will be able to review that particular case. All right. As we move on to subject matter, all right, each case has a specific subject matter to it. Well, what do the federal courts hear? So what kind of cases? All right. Anything which involves any type of federal law will be heard in a federal court. So you're not going to go to a New York State court for that. You're going to go to a larger court called the federal court. Anything involving treaties. So if there's an issue with another nation, you do not go to any state. You don't go to the city of your little local community court. You're going to go to the federal court, maybe even the Supreme Court. Okay. Any issue involving maritime law. If you're having trouble with the term maritime, think about maritime issues in terms of the seas, anything out in the oceans, anything out in the around the world in terms of the water. All right, and then the Supreme Court gets to interpret the Constitution, decide what we can and can't do. All right, certain cases the Supreme Court has what's known as original jurisdiction. So they're going to hear these cases. They are not going to be tried or heard in one of the lower courts. All right, most cases are heard in the lower courts. Certain cases can be appealed. Certain cases can be appealed to the higher courts, but for the most part, most of the cases that happen in our country are taken care of in the lower courts. All right. The Supreme Court hears or reviews 150 cases per year. That's not an exact figure. That's kind of a benchmark of around 150 cases. It is asked to hear over 5,000 every year. Court simply doesn't have that time, so the court gets to pick and choose the cases that it wants to review. All right. The last thing that you should know about the court, and we will be dealing with this case later on in our history, is in 1803, there was a major decision made. John Marshall was the Chief Justice. The case is Marbury versus Madison. And in 1803, the court figured out what it was supposed to do. And the job of the court is judicial review. So pretty short video for you on the court system. Stay posted. Keep an eye out. I'll be putting some other videos out on a lot of the other court cases. So good luck, and we'll see you soon.